Everybody, this is Goldie Tiwari, and today I'm going to explain to you how you can run a moderation analysis using process model 1, how you can interpret the output obtained from it, and then how you can plot and interpret the graph. First of all, a moderation analysis is a kind of regression analysis which explains the impact of your independent variable on your dependent variable through or under the influence of a moderator, which is a third variable. So, this is the thing that model 1 tries to explain. It says when your independent variable has an effect on your dependent variable under the influence of a moderator, then you can use model 1 to explain that effect. To explain it statistically, in this model, in this conceptual model of model 1, you have three pathways. The first pathway is B1, which is a pathway of direct effect of your independent variable on Y, on your dependent variable. Path B2, which is your direct effect of your moderator on your dependent variable. This path is path B2. And the most important path is interaction path of path X and path moderator. So this and this, finally this is the path B3, which is the multiplication of this and this path. So this is the interaction effect. How you can calculate the total conditional effect of X on Y? It's through path B1, which is this direct path, plus a multiplication of path B3, which is XM, and the path this. So this path, when multiplied by this path, gives the total conditional effect of your independent variable on your dependent variable y. So actually, this moderator explains the direction of your conditional effect, of direction of your effect of your independent variable on y, and or both can explain the strength of this effect of your x and y. Now, in this video, I'm going to illustrate this model through one of my own studies. I'm going to explain how message framing has an effect on the organization reputation in the event of a crisis, and how this impact of message framing on organization reputation is influenced by the time of crisis. So the actual story is, I was curious to know, in the event of a crisis, when a company faces a crisis situation and a CEO has to give a speech during or after the crisis, then the kind of speech the CEO uses and the kind of framing he uses in that, if how it can have an effect on the overall organization reputation, and this affects how it is influenced by the time of crisis. So I wanted to form a comparison between a factually framed message and a metaphorically framed message on the organization reputation under the influence of crisis time. So then I run a model 1 analysis in order to know the direction of this effect. I wanted to know which has a greater, if there is an effect under the influence of crisis time. That was my first question. And if there is an effect, then at what time the effect is significant, during the crisis or after the crisis? And if it is significant at a particular time of crisis, then which one of these two frames have a significant and a better effect on organization reputation? So I'm going to explain first how you can obtain an output of results through model 1. So I'm going to open my data file. This is my data file. These are all the variables. I'm only going to use the desired one, my x and my y and my moderator. So I will go to analyze, and then I go to regression. In my software of SPSS, I have already this plugin of process installed. But if also, I'm going to tell how you can install a process plugin. You have to go to extension and then utilities, and then you have to go to install custom dialog. And in your computer, when you install a plugin from Process Haze website, you will find somewhere that it is saved under the name of Process 213. You go there, you click Process SPD and then open. So here it get installed in your SPSS file. So now when you go to analyze and then go to regression, you will see the plugin for process. You see here, this is the plugin for process. You click it and then now you can choose model 1. There are lots of models associated with process, but we are interested in model 1 now. Bootstrap you generally keep at 5000, and then now you keep on loading your variables. So my outcome variable is organization reputation. So I'm going to quickly choose that. So here is my variable of organization reputation. My independent variable is message framing, which I saved as speech, because one thing you have to keep in mind when you are trying to run a model 1 or any model in SPSS, try to name it in a way that the overall number of words you use there or the number of characters you use in the name of the variable are less than 8 characters. So this is your independent variable. I named it as message framing, or the used in the speech of CEO, so I just named it as speech. And my moderator, crisis phase. Generally this is the place where you load your moderator, proposed moderator, but when you use model 1 you have to remember this, that this has to be loaded somewhere here where you generally use your mediator. So this is the way you do it. And then you have to keep one thing into mind. If you want to obtain a plot out of model 1, you have to choose an option. You have to go to option and then you have to click this option, generate data for plotting model 1, 2 and 3 only. So you have to make sure that it is checked in. And now continue and hit OK. And you have to wait for the results now. A little bit of patience. Yeah, so this is the output. First thing you have to do when you want to know the interaction effect, you have to directly see interaction 1. So you have to know whether it's significant or not. If it is significant, that means your moderation effect is significant. So you have to check this as the first thing, and you see it is significant. How you know that? When your confidence interval, when 0 does not lies between your confidence interval, that means your effect is significant. As you see, 0.09 is your lower confidence interval and 0.98 is your upper confidence interval, and 0 does not lie in between these confidence intervals, which signifies that your interaction effect is significant. So that's a good thing that your moderation effect is significant. Second thing you have to know is under which condition of your moderator this effect is significant. It may be possible that both during and after the crisis condition, which was my moderator here, the effect is significant. But it may also be possible that under only one condition of your moderator, the effect is significant. So you can check it here. Conditional effect of x and y at the values of moderator. So when you check it, you see 0 was coded as during the crisis condition. So this is crisis phase, and 1 as after the crisis condition. For during the crisis condition, when you check the confidence interval, you find out that yes, 0 is not between the confidence interval, because this is also negative, the lower confidence interval, and upper confidence interval is also negative. So 0 does not lie in between. So that's a good news that during the crisis phase, the moderation effect is significant. But what happens after the crisis phase, which is coded as 1? You see lower confidence interval is minus 0.45 and upper confidence interval is positive 0.17. That means 0 is lying somewhere in between here, which says this moderation effect is not significant for after crisis condition. One thing I'll also like to add here, in this moderation analysis, in model 1 analysis, this moderator can be both a categorical and also a matrix variable, that is a continuous quantitative variable. It can be both. Only difference that we will find in the result output is when it's a categorical variable, like in my case I already chose crisis time as a categorical variable, so 0 was during the crisis and 1 was after the crisis. But in case you have a matrix variable or a quantitative variable, then SPSS, this process, does it for you. So it will automatically divide your moderator into low, medium and high condition, so you need not to worry about it. So that's a good thing process does for you. In my case, and then in that case you also know what happens in a moderate crisis, moderate condition of your moderator, that means medium condition. So you have three categories there: low, medium and high. So you it does it for you by itself. Since my variable of moderator was categorical here, so it gave me output for only my two categories. So now I know that this moderation or the interaction effect is only significant during the crisis condition, but I don't know for which condition of my independent variable, which was message frame, and two conditions were factual or metaphorical, the effect on organization reputation is higher. That's my main research question. That was my main question. First was to know whether there is an interaction effect of X on Y through on under the influence of moderator of crisis phase, but also if there is an effect, then for which condition of my independent variable, factual or metaphorical, the effect is more, higher. So for that I need to plot a graph, and that graph can be plotted using this data. So you see here I find 3 rows, 3 and 6 4 columns, and then I see this one indicates speech. That means my condition of X, my independent variable. 0 is factual condition and 1 is metaphorical condition. This depicts my crisis phase. 0 is during crisis and 1 is after crisis. And this is the effect on organization reputation through under the influence of crisis phase. So using this data, I can plot my graph of model 1. How we can do it, I'm going to explain to you now. So just open a Microsoft Excel sheet, and all you have to do it, you have to make a matrix here, and then you have to write your conditions or the categories of your independent variable and also the moderator. So I'm going to write factual here, and the other condition is metaphorical, which was coded as 1, and then I'm going to write here during crisis condition, and then after crisis condition, which was coded as 1. So this was 0, this was 1, this was 0 and this was 1, and now I'm going to find the combination. So 0 and 0, so this is the combination 4.0. So I just type it there. 0 factual after condition 1, so 0 1, this combination is here, 0 1, which is 3.88. I write it here. Metaphorical was coded as 1, during crisis as 0, so 1 and 0, so which is here, which is 3.32. Then metaphorical as 1, and after the crisis condition is also 1, so 1 and 1, which is here, 3.73. So this is my data for plotting the graph of model 1. And now I'm going to select this, and then I am going to insert graph, line, and then this is the desired graph. Now to make it more clear to you, I'm going to label the points first, and then I'm going to explain to you what's the interpretation. So to make it a clear graph, I will just label all the titles and axes. So the chart title I'm going to write as impact of message frame on organizational reputation under the influence of crisis phase. This is the title of my graph. And then I'm going to label these all the points. So I'm going to add chart element, axis titles, and then this is the vertical title. So my dependent variable is organization reputation. So I'm going to label my y-axis as organization reputation. To make it a clear graph, I'm going to label and then increase the font sizes. So organizational reputation, and my x-axis I'm going to label it as my independent variable, which is message frame. Yes, so these are, to make it more clear, I'm going to just increase the font size and do something, and then this graph is ready. In order to explain to you in a better way, I'm going to zoom into the graph. So this is the graph. So now the explanation. As you already know from the output that this effect, interaction effect, is only significant during the crisis condition. So this is the place where the effect is significant. I'm again going to refer the output so that you get to know what I'm talking about. So I repeat, we already know this is significant only during the crisis phase. So 0 crisis phase, and we see this effect is only significant here, not after the crisis phase condition, which was coded as 1, where 0 was between the confidence interval. So this is not significant. So we see in this graph that we interpret that after the crisis condition this difference was not significant. So we cannot say anything about this zone, but we can say something about this zone, which is a significant zone, this one. And what we can say from there, we see that factual condition was labeled with a blue line. So we see this plot actually indicates factual condition and this metaphorical condition. And we see during the crisis condition, factual speech, factual framing of speech has a better organization reputation than a metaphorical framing. So that means it is better to use a factually framed message, crisis response message by CEO during the crisis phase. And nothing can be done what should be used after the crisis because this zone is not significant. So this is the interpretation of this process graph which we got through Hayes process model 1.